Caesar built great public works. By making money plentiful, Caesar won the loyalty and admiration of the common man. Money changers, of course, hated him. Economic experts believe that this is why he was assassinated. Upon the death of Caesar, the demise of plentiful money in Rome ensued. Taxes increased, and so did political corruption. Just as all over the world today, usury and debased coins become the rule. And it doesn't matter if it is gold, it is silver, or it is paper. Eventually, the Roman money supply was reduced by 90%. As a result, the common people lost their land and their homes, just like is happening all over the world today. With the demise of common money, the masses lost confidence in governments, refused to support it. Rome plunged into dark ages, since the U.S. has always followed the exact same corrupt political money system. Americans themselves have lost their money and their property. Today, I was reading financial support, and it looked like 95% of all Americans will lose whatever you have within the next year and a half. Just as in Rome. When Rome met its demise, the U.S. government will refuse to take action or do anything about privatization, monopoly of money systems, just like all the people of all the planet will not do anything about this. While we will, of course we will. But the ones in charge, they work for these guys. 1,000 years after Christ, money changers, those who lent money for excessive fees and those who manipulate the quantity of money, were active medieval England. So active, by the way, that they orchestrated and manipulated the entire English economy. These were not bankers per se, they were goldsmiths, the first bankers because they kept other people's gold for safekeeping in their vaults. The first paper money was merely a receipt of money, gold, and silver coin that was left at the goldsmiths to keep in their vaults. Paper money became the norm because it was more convenient than carrying big heavy bags of gold and silver coin. The goldsmiths eventually noticed that only a fraction people had ever returned to demand their gold at any time. Goldsmiths started cheating on the system, discovered they could print more money than they had in gold. Goldsmiths would then loan out the extra money, collect the interest on it, not paying any interest to depositors. It was the birth of fractional reserve banking, loaning out many more times and more monies than there were assets on a deposit. And if you've listened to me for a while, I told you the first event that I saw of that was actually with sheep. People sold more sheep than that actually existed. Middle Ages, canon law of Catholic Church forbade charging interest on loans. This concept followed the teachings of Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas. They taught the purpose of money was to serve the members of societies, facilitate goods needed to lead a virtuous life. Interest was considered an unnecessary burden on the use of money. Interest was contrary to reason and justice. Europe followed the canon laws of the Church, forbidding charging interest, made it a crime called usury, passed legislation known as usury laws. However, as commerce and opportunity for investment arose, In the Middle Ages, it came to be recognized that lenders had risk in lending and lost opportunity for investment. Some changes began to be allowed, slowly, subtly, changing interest still. Charging interest per se was a crime. All moralist condemnation was flawed. Oppression of the poor, injustice. Clearly, fractional lending was rooted in fraud. Results in widespread poverty and reduces the value of anyone that has honest money. Ancient goldsmiths discovered extra profits could be made by rolling in the economy between easy money and tight money. They had made money easy to borrow. The amount of money in circulation expanded. People took out more loans. The money changers would tighten the money supply, make it difficult to get. Goldsmiths realized certain people could not repay their loans, and they could not take out new loans and repay the old loans. As a result, they would have to go bankrupt to sell their property to the goldsmiths for pennies on the dollar. The same criminal enterprise as usury, tightening of the money supply, default on loans, and property confiscation still happening. It's now called the business cycle, but it's the exact same thing here. And around 1100 AD, a King Henry first resolved to take the power of money away from the lenders. He invented one of the most unusual money systems in history. It's called the tally stick system. The system lasted until 1826. Tally system was adopted to avoid monetary manipulation. The sticks were merely sticks of wood with notches on the end. That meant different denominations. The stick was split lengthwise, so both pieces still had a record of the notches. The king kept half to protect counterfeiting. The other would be spent into the economy and circulate as money. Under that system, money could not be manipulated, and it could not be stolen. No other form of money had worked as well, in Europe anyway. The British Empire, which was the most powerful nation on the earth, was actually built on that tally stick system. Bank of England, formed in 1694, and attacked the tally stick system because it was money that was outside the power of money changers, just as King Henry had wanted it to be. Tally stick succeeded, despite the fact the banks introduced coin as a competition. 1500s, King Henry VIII relaxed the usury laws because, well, a lot of reasons for that. We'll go into it another time. Money changers immediately made their metal coins plentiful for decades. Queen Mary tightened the money laws on usury. The money changers renewed a hoarding of gold and hoarding of silver, causing economy to plummet. Queen Elizabeth first took the throne. She was determined to regain control over the economy. Her solution was to introduce gold and silver coins from the public treasury, take away control of money from the money changers, of course, but financed by money changers. Oliver Cromwell overthrew King Charles, purged the parliament, and put the king to death. Money changers were allowed to immediately consolidate their financial power. The result was, for the next 50 years, money changers plunged Great Britain to a series of costly wars, as they do. They took over a square mile of property in the center of London, known as the City of London. This area is still known as one of the 3 prominent financial centers in the world. conflicts with the Stuart king led the money changers of Britain to combine the money changers of Netherlands, the financial invasion of William of George, and overthrow the Stuarts in 1688 and took the English throne. Bank of England. But by the 1600s, English financial ruin, as most of Europe is still. Continuous wars. France and Holland completely exhausted any money that was going on over there. Bank of England would be privately owned central bank. It is deceptively called the Bank of England to make it appear to be general population, as it is part of the government. Like all other private corporations, the bank sold shares to get started. Investors' names were never revealed. Each investor was to put up £1.25 million British pounds in gold to purchase their shares in the bank. However, only £750,000 were ever received. Despite that, the bank was chartered in 1694, started loaning out several times the money it was supposed to have in reserve at an interest. The new bank would lend out politicians, of course, as much money as they needed as long as they secured bank debt. Unfortunately, today, every nation has a privatized bank owned like this. Using Bank of England as a basic model, this has spread like a plague throughout the world. So as I continue tomorrow, realize this is where it came from. Nations do not need central banks. Central bank scam is a reality. A hidden tax where nations sell bonds to central banks to pay for things politicians don't have the political will to raise money and taxes for. Bonds are created by the central banks out of nothing. More money in circulation makes money already in circulation worth less. Government gets as much money as it needs, and the people pay for it with inflation. And next, fraud on a global scale of the Red Shields, the defenders of the Papal Bank. We'll start with that tomorrow and continue on with our story. Thank you everyone for listening today. I hope you enjoyed it. And join me tomorrow. We'll continue on, guys, and the story gets interesting, and all of this background will explain, of course, why they're poisoning our money, they're poisoning our water, they're taking our water, and they've lied to us about what's in the sky and all of the oceans of oil. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a nice day, guys.
You can listen to me. You can get up and walk away. I stayed drunk so long, Lord, 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 it was almost killing for me.